Is Trump any closer to doing what he's promised to make housing more affordable again? We have those, of course, highlighted up here. Trump's promises, more total homes, a slash of regulatory costs, unaffordability gets fixed, mortgage rates get slashed, and to prepare first-time homebuyers. Now, all of that is laid out in Agenda 47 if you want to walk through that. You don't have to. I'd also suggest a follow of somebody by the name of Scott Turner if you're a Twitter user, because he's currently actually doing a lot of talking around this regulatory cost cut. What does that mean? It's kind of a catch-22. I'm not sure you're going to like it. It means that builders will get to pay less to get a home built. Right now, according to, I think it's the National Association of Home Builders, according to them, it costs upwards of 25% of the entire cost of the home. So imagine a home is $400,000. Around 25% of that, $100,000 of that, is strictly regulatory costs. Now hold up one second. Let me pause that. I'm going to get the article actually. Now we're back. So pulled up Scott Turner's Twitter. We can see just yesterday, Charleston's winning again. I met with Mayor William Cogswell. We'll work together to increase the supply of affordable home. Oh, geez. The supply of affordable homes right there, and continue cutting costly federal regulations. Now, again, these are the costs, like permits are costly, like surveys are expensive, like environmental studies that have to be done for the size of particular communities. And not to mention the regulations of things like zoning, different inspections. There's a lot. If you've ever had to do anything with even like such as a structural engineer, you'll know that it's a costly item on the agenda. And they have to do it at scale. And they're paying upwards of $3,300 to $5,000 per unit just for the plans to be submitted. So you could have a unit filled community, like 200, 300 units, and you could have to pay over $1 million just in permitting costs to get started. You haven't moved any dirt yet. You haven't hired any labor, ordered any supplies. So if you ask me, like, let me pull up the National Association of Home Builders. I should have already had this pulled up. I'll get better next time. Yep, pulls it up right here. So this was a study, just so you know, back in 2001 that found it was 23.8%. That number is since a little bit higher. Some think it's 26, 28%. That's not confirmed. It has been confirmed as high as 25%. And I thought they had a nice graph, they do, that actually lays out, here it is. So if you're familiar, if you want this, I could link this in the Trump Tracker document, but this is the National Association of Home Builders, and this is regulatory costs at a whopping $93,870 to new home prices. This is the document located within, and if you scroll down to the bottom of it, you get nice little breakdowns. There's another color-coded one. But this shows you $93,000, line item by line item. So, of course, this is going to vary by location. It's going to vary by county. It's going to vary by the type of home that's being built. Where's that beautiful little graph? Is it not in this document? Oh, I'm crazy. I'm crazy. But it's based off of this. I've just seen one that had a bit better of a color coding to it. And it breaks down. And you may ask, well, Zach, what regulatory costs are going to get cut? We don't know. I follow Scott Turner because I want to know what the plan is. He is put in charge of housing and urban development, housing supply, and housing affordability for the lower to mid class. Is his job. It's his main job description. So following along, I've found more and more that we haven't really heard a plan. What regulatory costs are going to get cut, when they're going to get cut, why we're choosing these over another. It's not very enlightening. It's a lot of, like, for example, here's a good one. A home is more than four walls. It's the building block of a family, neighborhood, and a vibrant community. That sounds like ChatGPT wrote that. Today, I spoke with the Mortgage Bankers Association on how HUD can continue to deliver on the promises of the American dream, and it all starts with homeownership. Those are great words, no lie spoken, but it's a lot of that. Let's go to the next one. HUD's vision is simple. By expanding opportunity zones and cutting burdensome red tape, will revitalize American communities. Again, good words, but what's the plan? Where's the PDF? Where's the actual step-by-step? Here's how we're going to make it happen. Here's where we're going to make cuts. Here's why we're going to make the cuts. All that, not really there. So That's really the only movement we have there. Let's get into the numbers. I'm getting sidetracked. Let's get into the numbers. Now, of course, we can break this down in 3 ways. Sorry, I'm nervous. I don't live stream, and I'm not going to cut this. And this is a cool document. So we have 3 different things. 1, are the promises coming true? 2, are there any bills in legislation that we could possibly lean on or see as a little bit of hope, a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel? This change could change things. And 3, have the numbers change? Have the key 3 moved? And those are the big 3 numbers that we're going to focus on over here. Let's breeze through this document. For my nerds that want me to deep dive everything so that you know exactly what's going on, you're in the right place. If you just want a simplistic breakdown, I'd say honestly, just being able to look at the key 3, looking 1 through 100 on the first 2 numbers, 1 through 120 on the depression tracker, might be enough for you. Either way, this video is going to exist. We're going to walk through supply first. So supply of affordable housing specifically is going to rise with existing homes hitting the market. Why? Well, to tell you why, I first have to say, what types of inventory could we have? So you can have new construction inventory, you can have resale inventory, and then you get into multifamily, condos, apartments, but we're going to stick there. Single family homes. There's really only 2. New construction, new build, only being built to sell. Big brands like KHOV, D.R. Horton, KB Homes, them. And then you have resale. This is normal person selling their home. Why do I say affordable housing normally comes from resale? Because for new construction, it is more profitable to build bigger homes. We just tackled how regulatory costs get in the way a bit. And the next part that's most expensive about that build, the foundation. So nearly 50% of the cost of that home is caught up in those 2 items right there. Before any framing has been done, you're already 50% in, and we don't even factor in the cost of what that land cost them. So usually affordable housing doesn't come from there. It comes from resale. Now, the argument can be made, we definitely need more bills being discussed that could promote building by builders that is affordable, that is obtainable by a first-time buyer. Townhomes at scale, 1,000-square-foot homes at scale. But frankly, there's no incentivization for a builder to do so, so they don't. But right now, we are seeing a slight uptick in new construction inventory. That is going to help our supply number move up a little bit, but it is weighted toward first-time home ownership, which means we do weight it toward existing homes hitting the market. Right now, we're still at near historic lows there. And to get to points of even a healthy buyer's market, we want to see this number here located at K23, if you're following along in the document. We need that closer to well above 1 million, and that's why that's our target metric. So going into more on supply, building permits. Huge when we're looking at building. Now, I just said we don't need building. I'm already nervous fast talking, so I don't know if caffeine is going to be the best mixture. Why do we track building permits? Well, because even though new construction is not a direct correlation to affordability, a surplus in supply there leads new construction companies to alter the surrounding markets. So when a home sells in a new construction neighborhood for 300, 400, 500,000, that comparable sale can be used toward the appraisal of resale in the area. Layman's terms, if a home sells in a new construction area for less than what it normally would appraise for, that will make all the homes around it do the exact same. So it is vital to see supply increase here, though it might not lead directly to more affordable homes. It could be a leading indicator of resale homes having to take a dip in price as well. So something to keep an eye on. Our supply is currently listed at a 40.6. If you look at the breakdown over here, that still puts us in a critical shortage. We are below 45, which means we are not even close to even being a slightly undersupplied market in the 70 to 89 range. That would also be more than likely a buyer's market, by the way. This number getting above 65 into 70, and we're at 40. Right now, we need a lot more. We need a lot more. We need more homes being built. We need more reason for sellers to want to sell. And frankly, more affordable housing would help do that. There's so many people in the golden handcuffs that can't move from their 2, 3, 4, 5% mortgage. I believe it's over 80% of mortgage holders in America have less than a 5% mortgage. Today, as we shoot this, mortgage rates are at 30-year averages of 6.62 as of the Federal Reserve. So you're not getting that today, so people aren't moving. But we need supply. So this really does draw back to affordability. And if we look at the affordability indexes right now, we'll see that the first-time home affordability index is at a 66.8, and our conventional housing affordability index is 100.7. What does this mean in English? Let's pull up the housing affordability index for some more English. So this is provided by the National Association of Realtors. Again, this is for my nerds that want the breakdown of the back end of how it all works. We're going to walk into some of the documents. They break this up 3 different ways, actually. We have the monthly and we have the quarterly. On the monthly, we only get the standard housing affordability report, which I love, by the way. Love this document. What a graph. Because we get to see the regions. This is where we pull that for right here. We pull this directly from this report. We just clean it up a little bit. Just make it a little bit easier to read. So this document takes what the median normal family can afford. Hear me. What the median family can afford, their income, and then the median home in America. Not the most affordable home. They could buy a cheaper home for sure. And that's where another index comes into play. But in this index, it's just looking at median family income, median home for a family. And when it looks at both, it gives it a ranking. Now, 100 would mean that we're in perfect balance. We're in perfect balance of affordability. And we saw 2022, it's 108. Number was even higher in 2021. 96 as of 2023, 98 as of 2024, and as of February, last time we had the data, I'm sorry, we should have March. Where's March? It's escaping me. Might have to update the document. This is now pulling at 102.2. 102.2, which is actually slightly different than what the Trump tracker says. You're catching the behind the scenes. Yeah, we're at 102.2. Well, let's update this. So what that means, whoa, what happened here? Yeah, we need to drop that back a couple decimal places. Yeah, I don't know what's happening there. We're going to fix that. But what that means is housing's getting more affordable. What? Housing's getting more affordable? That doesn't make any sense. What's happening right now is those that own homes, follow me here, click this in. Those that own homes are not nearly as intimidated by this market. Why? Because when they sell their home that they bought pre-2022, pre-2021, refied through 2020 at a 3% interest rate, layman's terms, they have a very low mortgage. What they also have to pair with that really low mortgage is a lot of equity. Combine those two, and now you have this perfect storm of someone who, when they do eventually sell, they're going to have so much equity to put down on the next home that they're not going to have to suffer as high a mortgage payment as you or I would if you were only put 10 or 20 grand down. When they're putting 200, 250, 300 grand down, they're having a much better time affording this market. Let's walk into first-time home buyer affordability. This is also a potential 100-plus index. Right now, you'll see we're at a 66.8. I guess we'll confirm when we look to see if the numbers have updated. They still haven't. So this is updated quarterly. And as of right now, we see the first-time home buyer index is at 66.8. According to the National Association of Realtors, you can look through this document. It's a thick one. And what it does is it takes what is a starter home and compares it to a median first-time home buyer's income and says, okay, how much are they making? 66,817 is what that household's making according to NAR. And what's the home price? On median to end 2024, that was 348,600. Monthly payment would be 2,083. Interest rate they clock is a 6.7. And they're assuming you're putting 10% down. So this is including putting 34 grand down. And by the way, this monthly payment does not include taxes and insurance. Bringing the first-time homebuyer index score to 66.8. In 2021, this number was in the 90s, by the way. Very low. And that's where our affordability, if we highlight it, I think it'll show the cells that get used. If I highlight affordability, we'll see the cells that get utilized. The median household income, we need to see go up. Housing affordability index, we need to see go up, but not as important as seeing the first-time home buyer affordability go up. That's extremely important here. This is a key leading indicator to first-time home buyers having a chance. 10-year treasury yield as well as mortgage rates. Now, I've said this before, when mortgage rates drop, it could potentially lead to higher home prices. Why? More people will have more money to spend. It won't just be you and a couple of similar age, similar scenario buyers that'll hit the market. It'll be the investors. It'll be mom, pop, uncle, people with housing already that are waiting on lower rates too, and are frankly better qualified to get better products from most banks. So we want to see first-time homebuyer affordability going up. We're currently at a 52 out of 100. If we look at the tiering system for that, we'll see that we're entering a buyer's market or a more affordable market as we enter 60. Currently at 52, it isn't in the worst situation it's ever been in affordability-wise. We did see worse unaffordability technically around 2023, beginning of 2023. Prices were really high. Interest rates just hit all-time highs per the price. Leaving us with a 52 out of 100. Something to keep an eye on and a number we want to see increase. But let's go to the depression tracker. If we go to the depression tracker, we're not tracking anything over here. We're not tracking any of the rates. We're not tracking any of the 10-year treasury yields, which, by the way, we can look at these numbers right here. We did see an odd scenario happen with the tariffs as the 10-year treasury yield began to dip, then soared back up the moment they got paused. There's a lot of lack of investor trust in our current economy, and we see that lack of trust in the raising of the yield, and that's not a good sign if you want lower rates. Lower mortgage rates typically follow a lower 10-year treasury yield. Yes, inflation is a key leading indicator of rates being lower or higher, but that's ultimately anchored off the 10-year treasury yield. Those investors are looking at the inflation in the eye, they're looking at the economy in the eye, they're looking at the strength of the dollar in the eye, and they're making decisions there. That's as deep as we'll get. Core inflation, median mortgage with taxes and insurance, $2,670 right now. Let's look at the last two items. Like I said, the depression tracker. But before into that, I want to point your attention over to the cost tracker. These are all linked. These are all updated automatically. And we do see, and I want to point out some of the key items like groceries, like clothing, we're going to be adding to this. Food outside of the home will be adding to this. We have car insurance, home insurance. We're trying to add as many metrics as we can that are accurate to the standard household's monthly bill. But we see eggs up 25.8%. Wow. That's a gigantic number, and we can see this is right off of the Federal Reserve's website. One thing I'll say, and it's as political as I'll get on a Trump housing tracker. I guess I have every right to be, but I won't be. If we zoom this back in, we'll see January, this is where we're at. Right? January, this is where we're at. And of course, this is where we were at all throughout end of 2024. It wasn't really an issue. Started peaking around the end of summer, became more of a headline. And now as we enter this term, we were at all-time highs. Well, they've since climbed. I can't get behind, and this is why we have this tracker in the first place, I can't get behind someone who stands on the podium and yells, something is happening that is beneficial to you and you need to know about it, and it was because of me and my administration. I don't like the way that's phrased, for one, but two, it kills me when it's not even true. I've seen multiple occasions now in the last week touting cheaper eggs, cheaper eggs. Yes, it's just eggs. Yes, we also are worried about steel, and we're worried about lumber, and we're worried about tariffs, and we're worried about foreign relations, and we're worried about the strength of the dollar, our debt, our deficit. All of these are worries. Eggs is a small portion of it that affects millions. So why not get that little fact right? Eggs are indeed not cheaper. They're way more expensive, actually. I don't know if there's ever been a time they rose 25.8% in a 2-month span. I'm not saying that's even all his fault. But what I created this document for was to get past the words and get to the facts, to the data, through the unemotional, raw numbers that we can find online. So with that being said, let's look at the depression tracker. We're currently at a 32. We're currently in what's called a strong seller's market. Why did we name it a strong seller's market? Because a strong seller's market is pretty much the direct opposite of a housing crash or correction. Why? Because it means sellers are making what they want to make on their home. They're selling quickly. They're getting good terms. Why? Because there's a lot of demand. And you may be thinking, Zach, no one's buying houses. It's not true. There are select markets in Southwest Florida and more metropolitan areas. New York, Manhattan, Atlanta, Vegas, seeing slight slowdowns. West Coast seeing price decreases. Austin, Texas, seeing a surplus in supply. But overall, throughout the nation, we're seeing very high demand when homes hit the market that are priced right and are ready to go. They get 3-4 offers. They get 10 families at the open house. I'm right on the front lines. We have a team, a great team here in Delaware. If you're ever thinking of moving to Delaware, that is my full-time job. I run an incredible team, but we see it. Plain as day. And right now we're in the complete opposite of a crash because we have low supply, high demand in reference to the supply. Demand, like I said earlier, would indeed go up though if rates dropped. So if rates drop while we still don't have enough homes to sell, it's just going to become this even more squeezed price point that could lead to homes being even more obnoxiously expensive. So what you would like to see is this number go up. Correction in sight is when we're at a 70. Crash in sight at an 80. And if we get above 100, you won't even need this document anymore. You'll know we're in meltdown mode. What are we tracking right now? And I say right now because we are updating it. Sorry, I accidentally did that. We are updating it live. Is we're tracking these 10 elements. Now, like I said, we are looking at adding a few more. Unemployment rate, we're looking to add a secondary tracker called U6, which adds in some other leading indicators. We also want to add in self-employed to this because if, let's say the Census Bureau were to give you a call and you craft yarn animals, you yarn, you crochet, you sell them on Etsy. You sell 2 or 3 a month. You don't put much work into it, but daggone it, you're self-employed. You're a business owner, baby. When they call, you can say self-employed. You don't really have to give another excuse. You don't have to say how many hours you worked, how much money you make, but they'll log you as that, when in reality, you're functionally unemployed. Because if you're not making more than, say, 40 grand a year, you can't even really get by on normal everyday expenses without dying. And that sucks. But there have to be other ways to track the fact that job openings are down, that job applications are up, that money per job against inflation, it's being destroyed, wages stagflating. We're going to track more. But let's simply put, we have unemployment rate, FHA, total mortgage, housing supply, disposable income per homeowner. I think that's a really important one. Foreclosure rate, I think it's a bit overstated how important that is. I think it's a little less. I think anybody who sees foreclosures going up, like you're not Nostradamus, yeah, cool, look, foreclosures are going up. We have to look and see the leading indicators to foreclosures going up, one of which could be argued is unemployment rate. Business loan delinquencies, love that one. It's delinquency rates on all loans, credit card delinquencies, car payment defaults. Still looking for a great source on that one. And rental vacancy rates. All of these are tiered. If you highlight over here, you'll see the different tier options. I have gotten some feedback that some of you seem to not be able to see these comments. I don't know why. I'm new to running a publicly viewable Look, there's people chilling in here right now. I've never been in a scenario where anonymous neon cat. How do you get neon cat? It's always a bunch of random animals. That's hilarious. I've never been in a world where people hung out in a document of mine, so forgive me. But based off of the number here, we assign it a tier, and that tier gives you a certain amount of points. Now, I'll point you to a couple of the ones that we have on the high to elevated risk. And right now, that would be FHA mortgage delinquency, disposable income of homeowners, I think it's really important, and car payment defaults. Why do I think these are important? Because they're beginning signs of pain. When we're talking about a housing crash, we are talking about something that has only happened twice in American history. 2 times. What about before America? Well, there wasn't really a housing market in any other market. And today, worldwide, there have been crashes and corrections, but at the population we currently have, at the price we currently sell it at the way we do 30-year rate mortgages, at the way that we have both mixture of private and public and government when it comes to funding of them, the fact that we let corporations get in and buy properties, it's all much different. There's so many different factors. We're unique. So there's only historical evidence for what we've gone through. And like I said, we've only gone through a crash twice. Now, have home prices dropped more than twice? Yes. Very short term. Get my blue light glasses. In the later 80s into early 90s, in the late 50s, post-World War II boom, into, oh my gosh, we're not really making enough. And that's really it. There's a couple little sparse, tiny little, but nothing long-term, nothing that made anyone bleed. And no world where you get what you want, and you want that home that's $500,000 in your neighborhood to be worth $300 again, right? Let's just call a spade a spade. That's a 40% drop you're hoping for. I'm not saying that's unwarranted or that wouldn't be fair, because that's what your parents got to buy. Heck, your parents might have bought that home for $180. Your grandparents bought for $65 and a pack of gum. So we're past talking fair. We have to talk about what's historically possible. And from the Great Depression and from 2008, we saw home prices drop over 15 to 20%, 25, 30% in some areas. And that became something that we now chase as a community. Those 2 times, those 2 scenarios in history, A, are rare, B, do not help the middle class, and C, make the rich richer. Why? Because they have the money ready to go to buy more assets when the asset price drops. They have money on hand. They're not pinching and clawing and ready to go once interest rates get to X. They're ready to buy 10,000 more properties when interest rates get to X. So, to be very clear, when you're looking at this depression tracker, I don't think you should be cheering this number on. In fact, I hope this number never exceeds getting outside of a buyer's market. I hope this indicator is always green. If we start seeing the signs of a crash, it also doesn't necessarily mean, and this is going to be the wildest take you're ever going to hear, all of these numbers could indicate a crash. We could get upwards of a 95, 105, 115. Can I tell you that doesn't mean home prices will drop? I know what that sounds like. Zach, that would mean we're in a depression. What do you mean? You said it yourself. We'd be in meltdown mode. What do you mean? We'd be in the biggest discount rack for the elite of all time if home prices dropped 15, 20, 30%. You know how many investors are going to buy 3 more flips? You know how many communities are going to come in and, backed by private equity, fix places up? You know how many times in history that much opportunity has been on the floor for them? They're running out of things to buy, guys. They're running out of things to spend money on. They're actually trying to buy ports and canals now. Like, we're not in joke mode. This is a real thing. So I just want to be very clear. I don't want to see this number go up. I don't want to see these points skyrocket. And going back to what I said I was going to do and then I got sidetracked, these high-risk indicators. Can I tell you why these aren't numbers we want to cheer up? Because these are us. This is the working class getting pinched in number format. We're talking about FHA mortgage delinquency on the up. This is first-time home buyers, people that only paid 3.5% for their down payment. 3.5% is what they could scrape by. More is always better, by the way. 5%, 10%. It's going to put you in a better scenario, give you more equity. We're seeing a world right now, let me say it a different way, where first-time home buyer affordability is at near all-time lows, And now we're seeing first-time home owners might be the first ones kicked out the game. That's what I see in this data. Another supporting metric of that is total mortgage delinquency. Here we get to see the whole scope of mortgages, including FHA, by the way. So those 11% of FHA borrowers, which is a pretty heavy number, is included in this. And we can see we're at 1.77%. Now, a delinquency is missing one payment, by the way. We're not imminent foreclosure, not imminent default. That would be 90 days behind. We're talking one payment. We can see one payment behind less than 2% of the country. And again, that includes all those FHA people. So this tiny little uptick from 1.73 to 1.77, that was probably them. 39.6% of of homeowners in America don't have a mortgage. 80+% of people who have a mortgage have less than 5% on their interest rate. I don't say this for any other reason other than to say that first-time homeowners are probably the most at risk, and this number could get pretty high well before this number gets affected. Let's keep moving. I don't know why total housing supply says that. That's incorrect. Let's get the right number in here, baby. This is, can't have this. Can't have these types of mistakes, guys. It's all good. We're chilling. I'm learning as I go. Puts us at a low risk regardless. Let me get rid of the borders. There we go. Actually, I think I should add the borders. I think the borders would look nice. Let's see. I think the borders look nice. I think the borders look real good. We rock with the borders. We rock with the... If you don't like the borders, comment we don't like the borders. Comment on any sale. I'll see it. I like the borders. I'm rocking with it. Okay, a lot cleaner. So let's go back down further. Foreclosure rate, obviously, that's a huge, huge number to track, but we're going to see it go up well before any Nostradamus can see a housing market crash on the way. Disposable income of homeowners. I want to touch base on this one. This is the amount of money that is available to a normal homeowner. We can see that the percentage started to drop significantly. All right, so look, household debt service payments as a percent of disposable personal income. As simply as I can put it to you, this is the amount of extra money somebody has that isn't being used toward housing. So when we look at 2007, 2006, look at the key leading indicators that we saw before home prices started to drop. Home prices started to drop, affordability slowly got better, peaked out, plateaued. COVID changed things drastically. A lot of money got thrown into the economy. Trillions printed, quantitative easing, bank bailouts, toxic asset management holdings, all of this right here. We're starting to see that number climb back up. I don't think it's alarming right now. I think it's a moderate risk. I think it's elevated. But I think if we start seeing this number peak above 10%, oh, you know what? This is backwards. I got to reverse this. Higher is worse. Yeah, I'm going to reverse this. See, we're learning things. We're figuring stuff out as we go. We want to see that number stay low because, again, we're talking about normal everyday homeowners there. The other one I'd like us to look at is credit card payment defaults. We are seeing all-time highs in people not able to afford their cars, vehicles. Why it matters. Car costs, including loans and insurance, have soared in an economy where consumers are showing mounting signs of stress. 6.6% of subprime auto borrowers were at least 60 days behind past due on their loans as of January 2025. So we're only talking as of January. We get numbers that can update this earlier, we will. But we're only talking January, and we're already talking elevated at soaring levels. So what does spring and summer bring in a world where no fixes are being brought? Where tariffs could make the average everyday item more expensive? Where our foreign relations are going to lead to our debt being squeezed? If you don't know about how U.S. securities are traded, that is how we trade off our debt to other countries. We say, hey, China, hold this $1.1 trillion worth of debt for us, and they could sell it. That's about 10%, 8%-ish of the entire securities market. Not to mention if BRICS got involved. You know who BRICS are? It's Brazil, Russia, India. South America. Yeah, it's China and South America. They together want to de-dollarize the world. If they got together and all said, hey, let's sell our securities, let's hand our debt back, we would have a rug pulled out from under us. And so when I look at the middle class is already struggling, and the working class is already having a hard time getting by, and here's what you're looking to do. You're looking to remove labor from areas where that, frankly, illegal labor was leading to affordable housing. That's going to be more expensive. The shingles, the appliances, the steel, the wood, all of these things more than likely going to be more expensive. And now, all at the same time, we see the clear signs of the working class struggling. The middle class is about to have to eat higher prices. We're already seeing ourselves on the forefront of an economic downturn that breaks from the middle, honestly. That breaks from the middle. And in my opinion, will cause this ripple of many people forced into poverty while few escape to wealth. And the divide will be so large that few will ever American dream it from one to the other. That's what I worry about when I watch this depression tracker. I worry about what if some of these numbers go nuclear while others stay green? What if they make just enough rental properties for the rental vacancy rate not to go crazy? But FHA borrowers are just being kicked out left and right. I don't know. I get a little conspiratorial on that. That's what we have the document, though, because we can fall back on data. We're not in the rooms that are making the decisions enough to know why and how these decisions are being made, what the end game of it all. Is it some totalitarian dictatorship based off the World Economic Forum? Is it the worldwide gold standard unfolding in front of us through the currency melting down and giving us no other option? Seeing as the world holds 60% of the U.S. reserves, or U.S. dollars, as their reserves. I'm being a tinfoil hat guy, but we got numbers in front of us to show that that might not be what's happening. That maybe Trump is going to come through on making housing affordable again. And there's two places I would point you to if you want more of this. All right, I have tagged our national affordability report to this. If you live anywhere in America, you're going to like this document because you're going to be able to walk through and see plain as day which cities are doing what. It is so data infused, it's silly. We could honestly probably on the next issue make it a little bit more graphically flavored instead of just data flavored. There's so much data. If you're a data nerd, this is going to be your favorite document of the month, I promise. It's called the Loft Report. National affordability is its focus. And you can see all the data from all the areas all throughout the country, ranking by crime, ranking by cost of living, ranking by the market trend, most affordable, least affordable, even have some of my favorite contacts you can hit up in specific areas. That list is actually like 150 agents. We need to get a QR code to the big list. This is only a few. We only got Alex out here on the West Coast. We got a few. I got Tyler. My goodness. Overviews by city and more and more. But regardless, if you want more, you also have the watch of Volume 1. We did just shoot Volume 2, so that'll be coming out in a few weeks. And if you'd like to get notified of any big updates, you can plug in your email here. We'll send out big updates. We haven't sent out any yet. We will not spam you. You're not getting added to a market list. But that's it. That's it. I'm going to stitch this, the one I had to pause it, and this one together. But that's it. And frankly, if you want this update to feel a different type of way, if you're like, Zach, this isn't your style, you suck at this, please tell me. I want your feedback dramatically. Like, if you're watching this right now and you're at the end of the video, I love you so much. Can't believe you're taking your time with all the different forms of content you could be watching to watch some dude in the Batman shirt talk about real estate on an Excel document. What a weird world. Thank you so much. Give me your feedback. What could I do better? Should I show more screen shares? Should I have more articles ready? Should I give you more updates on what the last month in housing was? Should I just stick to reading the numbers more? Less sidetracks and rabbit holes? You let me know. You're what's gotten this document to here. Your advice. I've taken all of your feedback, guys, to create what we have so far. We do have some people looking at making it into a website. I will say it looks a little bit more expensive than I'd like. and this doesn't make income, I hate for it to be about money, but I can't spend hundreds of dollars hosting something that doesn't at least make tens of dollars. Like, less of a loss. You know, if I could break even, let's do it. Like, if we can break even on something, I'm all for it. It's not about the profit margin, it's just about the expense being covered. Because I have a Taco Bell addiction. All right, guys, have a great one. Leave your feedback. See you next month.